Exclusive. 2 weeks before Kawhi's first no-show payday, the Clippers bailed out Aspiration with a $21 million deal signed by the team's CFO. Yes, Mark Cuban sent Pablo Torre down this rabbit hole. He literally described exactly what they did, a source says, to circumvent the cap. I'm going to be honest with y'all. We had a show ready for you. We had all sorts of big football content ready for you. We were ready for a Thursday night. And then all of a sudden this morning, yet another Pablo bomb comes out. So Tom Haberstroh joins us now. He answered the bat phone yet again early in the morning. Appreciate you, Tom. So I'm just going to admit my ignorance, and this is what I'm going to ask you to do, because we all went down the rabbit hole trying to figure this out. Explain to everybody like they're a 5-year-old. That's my favorite way to do this. What does the newest reporting actually mean?
Well, it's a over an hour-long episode, so I'll try to truncate that into this interview here. But I will tell you, you have to watch the whole thing because it really is an unbelievable report from Pablo Torre Finds Out, where he is talking to Dan Le Batard from Meadowlark Media, and they're acting out a deposition transcript that Pablo Torre had found out, that he had discovered, and he was able to find document after document after document that shows more money, over $100 million, were coming from Steve Ballmer and the Clippers to fund this Aspiration company. That, remember, Aspiration signed an endorsement deal with Kawhi Leonard where they did not announce the endorsement deal, and Kawhi Leonard did not do anything to endorse this company. And the question hanging over all of this is, was this cap circumvention or not? And it's becoming increasingly hard to see any other explanation based on Pablo's reporting today that Steve Ballmer didn't just put in $50 million into this company, but over $110 million as this company was circling down the drain. Aspiration was circling down the drain. Pablo reported that in this deposition sit down, the transcript that he'd uncovered on a related lawsuit of a Clover financial institution that was suing the co-founder of Aspiration, he had discovered that at least 19 financial institutions were staying away from Aspiration. Said, we don't want to have anything to do with this company. We are not sending in more money into this Aspiration company. And yet, as Pablo Torre Finds Out reported, Steve Ballmer and Dennis Wong, the co-owner of the LA Clippers, came in, parachuted in, and said, here's more money. Here's more money. So why were all of these institutions, financial institutions, looking at this Aspiration company and saying, why would we touch them? Why would we invest more money in this company? Why KPMG stopped auditing this company? They resigned as the auditor of this company. And yet here's Steve Ballmer and a co-owner of the Clippers saying, hey, we'll get you the money you need. We'll get you more money. And so the question hanging all over this is, if this wasn't cap circumvention, why is everything so secretive? Because this other thing happened in this episode, which you have to watch it to fully appreciate what went down in this deposition transcript. As the Aspiration co-founder is under deposition, under oath in this lawsuit, he was looking at his attorney and looking to see, as soon as they started asking about the nature of Steve Ballmer's investment into Aspiration, he looked at his attorney, and his attorney said, don't look at me. As if to say, you answer the question. What is the nature of Steve Ballmer's relationship and investment into the company around 2022, 2023? And Joe Sandberg, in this deposition that was brought to light by Pablo Torre's reporting, incredible reporting, he pled the fifth. The co-founder of Aspiration, when asked under oath about the nature of these investments from Steve Ballmer and the Clippers, he suddenly said, I plead the fifth. So Adam Silver has to get to the bottom of this and understand, why is this so secretive? Why is this co-founder pleading the fifth about why Steve Ballmer is investing at this time when everybody else refuses to invest in this company? And if it isn't cap circumvention, what could this possibly be? And so this is an incredible revelation reporting from Pablo Torre, and we haven't even talked about the Mark Cuban stuff.
Let's get into the Mark Cuban stuff because that was kind of what was the catalyst for this most recent finding from Pablo Torre finds out that Mark Cuban said, "Well, hey, if they really wanted to circumvent the cap, then they could have just done this." And so Pablo said, "All right, sure, let's look into that then." Sure enough, that's exactly what they found. That is exactly what they did. So let's get into the Mark Cuban of it all and that chapter of this story and how this exchange between Mark Cuban and Pablo Torre led us to this most recent finding.
Yeah, I could not imagine that the league office was happy to see that Mark Cuban, who has been fined more by the league office than any other NBA owner in NBA history, and has had his own share of issues running the Mavericks organization, is out here declaring, "I am Team Ballmer" from the get-go, and goes on Pablo Torre's podcast and has over 3 hours of conversation that was whittled down to about an hour. And I was like, man, the league office can't be really happy that he's out here defending in the public without kind of really thinking this through. Because over the weekend, as Pablo pointed out, there was almost 100 tweets, thousands and thousands of words that Mark Cuban had written in defense of Steve Ballmer. And within those tweets, he laid it out pretty explicitly. Hey, if this was really cap invention, and I'm paraphrasing here, if this was really circumvention, then wouldn't you think Steve Ballmer would have invested more money and used these carbon credits to funnel money to Kawhi Leonard if this was truly cap circumvention? And Pablo was like, as you said, Caroline, was like, let's go see. And he uncovered more money. Just that, more money that lines up with the time schedule of Kawhi Leonard. And so it does appear that without Mark Cuban prodding and laying out the blueprint for cap circumvention and saying, hey, if this really was something fishy and this was breaking the rules, wouldn't you think they would have done it this way? And that's exactly what Pablo found out. So again, we are looking at a story that's unraveling before our eyes. This is the 4th installment of this series. And I gotta say, I'm curious to see if Mark Cuban is going to continue his tweet storm about this story, because what Pablo is doing is using those tweets against him, against Steve Ballmer, and this is not a good defense of Steve Ballmer if you are truly hashtag Team Ballmer.
Why is Mark Cuban dying on this hill?
I don't know. A lot of people around the league are asking that same question: is why is Mark Cuban having so much interest in this story? Thousands and thousands of words in tweets over the weekend when everyone's like, hey, I'm out with my kids and I'm doing this and I'm doing that. He's not being interrogated here. He's not being investigated in here. And so no one seems to know the answer to this question. And by the way, he also purported like, hey, Uncle Dennis, this could be all just Uncle Dennis, the manager of Kawhi Leonard, Dennis Robertson, who is basically going into all the Toronto Raptors previously and the Los Angeles Lakers and the LA Clippers with a list of demands. If you want Kawhi Leonard, hey, here's what you need, reportedly. And we have in this reporting from Pablo Torre, what he is reporting, a text message from Uncle Dennis to the owner of this company, Aspiration, in which he's essentially asking for payment because it's late for Kawhi Leonard. So as we continue, it is bombshell after bombshell after bombshell. And Adam Silver, after being asked about this, and he's backtracking, guys, training camp's in like 10 days. Training camp is in 10 days. And this is a huge story in the NBA that is not going away anytime soon.
You bring up hashtag Team Ballmer. If we want to play devil's advocate here and look at this story through the lens of people that are pro Steve Ballmer and, anti any of Pablo Torre's findings, from what we now know, the most recent evidence that has been uncovered and then the previous evidence that has been uncovered, what more, in your opinion, needs to come out for all of the hashtag Team Ballmer out there to believe that this is in fact fair play, to believe in fact that the Clippers did circumvent the cap?
Yeah, I don't know what's left. I don't know. And certainly I believe that someone would have reported this already as the defense. right, is the alibi. I would have expected, with all of the other reporting in the other direction from Pablo Torre, from Toronto, from other sources, the Athletic and Mike Vorkunov, all of this reporting pointing in one direction, and I have yet to see anything that looks like an alibi or some sort of defense that clears and exonerates Steve Ballmer and the Clippers in this whole mess. There is, at some point, Adam Silver has to hold his hands up and say, I've seen enough. And the question for everyone in the league that is hovering over this entire investigation and story is, when is Adam Silver going to draw his ruling here? Because as this is swirling around and this dark cloud hovering over the Clippers, I remind everybody, the Clippers are hosting the All-Star game in LA in 5 months. Steve Ballmer is very much positioning himself as the face of this All-Star game at Intuit Dome, his new arena. And so this story, the block is hot right now. And I don't know how they're going to be able to stamp out this or remove this cloud as the season approaches, when media availabilities are coming around. And certainly, I mean, Mark Cuban, I don't know what he does here. Maybe Adam Silver gives him a call and says, like, hey, can you just log off? Can you log off for a second, please? And don't continue to give the blueprint to Pablo Torre. So I just think that I'm trying to find plausible deniability here for Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. But as Pablo Torre is lining this up, it is increasingly very hard to figure out how this isn't cap circumvention.
Tom, I talked to somebody I think is pretty well connected with the league the other day, and he said it's a very long investigation coming. May not even be done till the end of the season, he said. Why? If Pablo can give me new reporting every 3 days, it seems to be another layer of this. Why does the NBA need months and months and months to investigate us and tell us what's happened?
Well, I think the level of the burden of proof that Adam Silver has said, he's like, I presume all my owners essentially are innocent until proven guilty. They are not guilty until proven innocent. So in this case, the bar is going to be pretty high for Adam Silver to come down hard on a guy that is worth almost more money than the entire NBA combined. All the owners in the NBA, if you look at the math here, he's richer at 170 billion, reported $170 billion worth. He is basically richer than 25 NBA owners. And so if Adam Silver, who is working for Steve Ballmer and the other owners, is going to come down hard on Steve Ballmer, he is going to want to have as many receipts as he can have. And so that's where Wachtell Lipton, the commissioned law firm for the NBA, is going to dig in and get as many documents as they can, internal documents from the Clippers, and that's going to take a while. However, the sooner that this gets done, I think the sooner that we can move on from this story. It is a PR disaster at this point, considering the All-Star game coming up and considering there's Luka Doncic in LA and there's all these wonderful storylines in the NBA, but all everyone wants to talk about is this Kawhi Leonard story. So the sooner that they can find resolution to this, I think the better. But from a legal standpoint, this is going to be tough to get this over in a hurry.
I know we got to let you go real quick. Do you believe that what we have seen from Pablo so far enough, as it is right now, would be enough to meet that bar?
For me, my opinion, yes. And for a lot of GMs and executives around the league, I think the answer increasingly is yes. And the question is, does Adam Silver find the same way? And the conflict of interest here is glaring. Steve Ballmer, as been reported, is the chair of the NBA's audit committee. Okay? So the optics of this and the conflict of interest, do we trust the NBA to do the right thing here from a legal standpoint or from what's obvious here in the reporting, what this looks like? Or is this just one big mess of politics within the NBA? And we'll find out, we will find out what Adam Silver does after this investigation concludes, but it's being increasingly hard to see this other than cap circumvention.
Tom, we appreciate your time early in the morning. Thanks for answering the bat phone as always, my friend. You made us smarter, and we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on.